U.S. air power grew great in the Second World War. Its most visible expression was the vast armada of bombers, such as B-17s, which droned over the Axis countries. They took on the enemy's fighters and, using the Norden bomb sight, put down vast tonnages of high explosive wherever it would hurt him most. But it was a new kind of bomb which ended the war. Single B-29s, the greatest aircraft of their day, dropped atomic bombs on Japan. Henceforth, the equation was one bomb, one city. Along with nuclear weapons came jet airplanes, early examples being the F-80 Shooting Star, the F-104 Starfighter, which was the first to fly at twice the speed of sound, and the high-flying U-2. Today, Strategic Air Command is the biggest command of the U.S. Air Force. Its headquarters is at A.F.A. Air Force Base, Nebraska. Tentacles from here go out to every one of SAC's 120,000 hand-picked personnel. Powerful computers and communication systems never sleep, but continuously monitor the exact status of 100 B-1B bombers, 250 B-52s, 60 FB-111s, 1,000 Minutemen intercontinental missiles, and a small but growing force of peacekeeper missiles. With the capability of effectively destroying our planet, there is no room for error. SAC is proud of its record. Some of SAC's aircraft carry no weapons, though they are the most powerful and most costly aircraft ever built. Based on the civil jumbo jet, they are the mighty E-4s, weighing 400 tons and with 60 people on board. In time of crisis, not only the commander of SAC, but also the President of the United States would be on board. Via amazing command and control systems, they would direct all the U.S. armed forces, even if Washington no longer existed. Lost in the vastness of the sky, they would be immune to attack by the enemy. About once per day, fuel would be taken on board from one of the giant KC-10 extender air refueling tankers. It is the fervent wish of everyone aboard that they never have to make a mission in deadly earnest. Much smaller than the E-4, but almost as expensive, the Boeing E-3A Sentry is the world's greatest guardian of the skies, but again without any weapons of its own. It is officially the AWACS, the Airborne Warning and Control System. Its chief payload is a powerful radar which transmits and receives through a giant antenna 30 feet across, which rotates high above the aircraft. On board, 16 to 20 specialists manage complex computers and displays to carry out surveillance, weapons direction, and battle staff functions. Without fighting themselves, the E-3s multiply all the rest of U.S. air power. As the rotodome rotates, it sweeps the radar beam to all points of the compass. From over 5 miles above the Earth, the radar can see everything of interest on or above the surface out to a distance of 250 miles. In total contrast, the Lockheed SR-71, popularly called the Blackbird from its color, flies a mission more like a spacecraft than an airplane. Its amazing shape not only enables it to fly faster than 2,000 miles an hour, but also makes it difficult to see on enemy radars. Every flight is planned like a space mission. Hundreds of skilled people are involved, but their efforts are all concentrated on just two men, the pilot and RSO, the Reconnaissance Systems Officer, who are dressed in full-pressure flying suits like astronauts. In the rear cockpit, the RSO manages cameras similar to those carried by spy satellites and cunning radars and infrared sensors, though details are secret. Up front, the pilot flies and manages the amazing airplane. For crew safety, escape systems that could operate at over 100,000 feet had to be developed. Blackbird is over 107 feet long and over 55 feet wide. It is constructed largely of titanium, which can withstand the high temperatures and forces imposed when the SR-71 flies faster than a bullet. Current Blackbird deployment is with the 9th Strategic Reconnaissance Wing at Beale Air Force Base in California. Once it has tucked away its triple sets of wheels, it becomes the fastest and highest flying airplane in the world, and also one of the most elusive. A contributing factor to Blackbird's elusiveness is that the SR-71 flies at over 80,000 feet, or 16 miles above the ground. To reach high altitude and speed, each power plant generates more than 30,000 pounds of thrust, more thrust than the engines on board the Queen Mary. In order to in-flight refuel, the SR-71 has to slow down and come down to about 30,000 feet to meet up with its tanker. There, the Black Mystery ship takes on its special JP-7 fuel from a KC-10 tanker. The KC-10 is a special version of the DC-10 airliner. In a very rare formation, an SR-71 is accompanied by a TR-1, the latest version of the U-2 spy plane. Both are painted in special black paint which confuses enemy radars. Together, they give the United States unrivaled ability to find out what other nations are up to. Not all SAC's aircraft are unarmed. Perhaps the greatest bomber in the world, the Boeing B-52, first flew in 1952. Many of them are older than their pilots. Though originally designed to fly serenely at 40,000 feet, carrying a few nuclear bombs, these B-52Ds were rebuilt to fly at low level and to carry up to 40 tons of ordinary HE bombs. In Vietnam, they dropped more tonnage than fell in World War II. Today, only the latest versions of B-52 are in service. These are the G and H versions. A vital weapon carried today is the ALCM, the Air-Launched Cruise Missile. At the bomber's base, a special powered loading truck brings up tandem triplets of ALCMs for loading aboard the aircraft. A B-52 can carry 20 of these awesome weapons, 12 under the wings and 8 on a rotary dispenser inside the fuselage. After release from the bomber, the ALCM's wings unfold. The jet engine starts working, and it becomes a miniature airplane over 20 feet long and flying at jet speed. A single ALCM is armed with a powerful W-80 nuclear warhead. It can guide itself a distance of more than 1,500 miles and deliver its warload with great precision on a chosen target. The service record of the B-52 has been long and proud, and these great aircraft are expected to serve well into the 1990s. Nobody expected the B-52 to have to soldier on for so long. But at last, a new bomber has entered SAC service to augment and eventually replace the old stalwart. The Rockwell B-1B has 4 engines, only half as many as a B-52, but they are twice as powerful. Aerodynamically, the B-1B is dramatically different, with pivoted swing wings, which can be extended to a wide span for takeoff and landing, or folded back for flight at supersonic speed. Low supersonic speed is used for the long haul towards the target, while high subsonic speed can be used for the final low-level dash to the weapon's release point. Unlike the B-52, the new bomber, which is crewed by a pilot, co-pilot, and 2 systems operators, was specially designed to attack at low level. This is achieved using advanced navigation aids to deliver free-fall bombs with great accuracy. A further advance is that it was specially designed to be difficult to detect on enemy radars, and its apparent size, as seen by radar, is only 1/100th that of a B-52. It is, however, not a true stealth aircraft, and an even later bomber is being developed by Northrop for service in the 1990s, when even the B-1B will find life difficult. For the moment, the 100 B-1Bs which entered SAC service in 1985 form by far the most formidable long-range bomber force outside the Soviet Union. Today, America's air power is also looking towards space. President Reagan's Strategic Defense Initiative has yet to result in deployed forces, but for many years, this secure headquarters inside Cheyenne Mountain in Colorado has been the NORAD Combat Operations Center. NORAD, North American Air Defenses, is a binational command operated by U.S. and Canadian forces. Cheyenne Mountain keeps track of every one of hundreds of satellites orbiting the Earth, nearly all of Soviet military origin, and a total of 5,800 objects at present in space. Since 1982, the U.S. Air Force has assigned all space operations to Space Command, whose responsibilities are not merely global, but now extend far from Earth. Space Command operates 23 worldwide space surveillance units, of which 3 of the largest, in Alaska, Greenland, and England, are the Ballistic Missile Early Warning System. These BMUS stations monitor outer space to watch for any attack on North America or the UK. If they sounded the alarm, 1,000 nuclear missiles could be launched in retaliation. In fact, America's strategic missiles are designed to ride out an attack and remain launchable afterwards. Geographically, the biggest U.S. force command is A.F.A, the Pacific Air Forces. They cover 1/3 of the world, from Hawaii to Asia. Typical of A.F.A's operations is that at Kunsan Air Base in South Korea, where McDonnell F-4D Phantom II fighters are loading Mark 82 bombs and GBU-10 laser-guided smart bombs. They also carry electronic countermeasure pods to defeat hostile radars. These famed fighters are now being replaced by the F-15 Eagle and the F-16 Fighting Falcon. The Fairchild A-10A Thunderbolt II is a strange-looking bird, often called the warthog, but always treated with respect. Designed to kill tanks, it has the most powerful aircraft gun in the world. 1,350 rounds of armor-piercing 30mm ammo can be carried. This is fed into the magazine with a powered loader. The A-10 can also carry 2.75-inch rockets, which are loaded into wing pods. Streamlined Mark 82 bombs are another option for strike missions. A single-seater, the A-10A has 2 turbofan engines at the rear and a thick bathtub of titanium armor around the cockpit. These A-10s belong to the Connecticut Air National Guard, but have been deployed to Hawaii for live firing exercises, which is a great experience for their part-time pilots. More than any other fixed-wing airplanes, the A-10s stay low when on real operations because that is how to survive over the battlefield. Of all aircraft in the sky, the one most young men want to fly is the General Dynamics F-16 Fighting Falcon. These F-16s at Hill Air Force Base in Utah were the first in service. Tanks, bombs, and 20mm ammo goes aboard as the ground crews prepare the aircraft for a training mission. Fighting Falcons from the 388th Tactical Fighter Wing take off for more tough training missions to teach pilots how to hit ground targets and how to shoot down enemy aircraft. When the F-16 was first designed, many doubted it could do a useful job. It has the same power plant as its big brother, the F-15, but only 1 engine instead of 2. But it was soon proved that this graceful machine could outfly and outfight almost everything. The F-16 was the first aircraft in service able to sustain a back-breaking 9G turn. In a dogfight, it has yet to meet its master. Its excellent Westinghouse radar assists both navigation and bomb aiming. In air combat mode, the radar can put the short-range Sidewinder missile on target. Air-to-ground loads, such as cluster bombs, can weigh up to 6 tons, and still the F-16 is probably the most agile aircraft in the sky. The pilot reclines in a sloping seat, which helps him withstand the G-forces of high-speed air-to-air combat. He has a transparent canopy all round, giving a perfect view. It was said by one pilot after his first flight that it was like riding on a jet-propelled telegraph pole. USAFE, or U.S. Air Force Europe, is the permanent stationing of U.S. aircraft on the eastern side of the Atlantic to support the American commitment to NATO. Its fighter assets in Europe include F-15s and F-16s. In the event of war, considerable air reinforcements would cross the Atlantic. Because of the anticipated intensity of any war in Europe, all U.S. bases are being equipped with hardened aircraft shelters. Here, the ground crews are trained in anti-nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare, and the aircraft can be turned round under cover. Hardened aircraft shelters at Lakenheath in England are also home to the General Dynamics F-111F Aardvark. The F-111F is designated as a fighter, but is actually a very effective low-level bomber. F-111s can carry over 12 tons of bombs, and they were the first aircraft in service with pivoting swing wings matched to heavy load takeoffs and to flight at supersonic speed. The Aardvark can be tasked with deep penetration to deliver surgical strikes with either conventional or nuclear weapons against enemy targets at night or in bad weather. The crew of 2 sit side by side, and they need strong nerves to fly at near the speed of sound only just above the ground, even in thick fog, and even among mountains. Unfortunately, this is the only way to hit the target and stay alive. Some of the earliest F-111s have been rebuilt by Grumman as EF-111A Ravens. These have exchanged their bombs for clever electronics because their mission is to fly alongside or over enemy territory, jamming the radars that would otherwise detect U.S. warplanes. The EF-111 carries very sensitive receivers which continuously search for additional enemy defenses. Should a new radar be detected, it is identified, analyzed, and jammed automatically while continuing to spoil the operation of all the others. One of the versions of the famous Phantom, destined to remain in Air Force service for some time, is the RF-4C. This Phantom does not carry weapons, but is loaded with special cameras, infrared and side-looking radar, and flies reconnaissance missions through enemy territory. Well over 5,000 Phantoms were built. The final version, the Phantom F-4G, is a dedicated anti-radar aircraft with the ability to seek out enemy radars and destroy them with homing anti-radiation missiles. The neat little Northrop F-5E Tiger II fighter does not have a front-line role with the U.S. Air Force, but its life is nevertheless one of unremitting aerial combat. Painted to look like fighters of the Soviet Union and other Warsaw Pact countries, they serve as aggressor aircraft to play the part of the enemy. Flown by the best fighter instructors in the business, their task is to turn the average fighter pilots into unbeatable fighter pilots. Typical of the units whose pilots are honed to perfection by the aggressors, the 1st Tactical Fighter Wing is the premier element of Tactical Air Command, equipped with the splendid McDonnell F-15 Eagle. Here they are deployed at Camp New Amsterdam in the Netherlands. The F-15 is unquestionably the #1 fighter in the Air Force. First flown in 1972, Eagle is a worthy successor to the same manufacturer's Phantom. The Eagle is powered by 2 Pratt & Whitney turbofan engines, giving almost 25 tons of thrust. The F-15 is a large aircraft, much heavier than a B-17 bomber of World War II, but it can fly at nearly 2.5 times the speed of sound and is a deadly enemy in air combat. The Eagle carries a 20mm gun, 4 Big Sparrow radar-guided missiles, and typically 4 Sidewinder infrared homing dogfight missiles. Using its superior Hughes radar, the F-15 pilot easily finds the enemy, locks on, and fires a missile. The enemy is caught in the F-15's head-up display. Eagle fires a live missile against a QF-102. Once an all-weather interceptor, the QF-102 is flown under radio control to serve as an air combat target. Perhaps this is a better way to die than in a scrapyard. Today, the McDonnell plant is building a new kind of F-15, the F-15E. This Eagle can let go 23,500 pounds of bombs. It can also be armed with cluster bombs. Painted in somber camouflage, it can do anything an F-15 fighter can, but it also has tremendous ground attack capability, being able to carry 4 times the load of a B-17 heavy bomber of World War II. It can also carry more fuel than 6 of the first generation of jet fighters. For additional range, it can nuzzle up behind one of the fat KC-10 tankers and take on board as much as it needs to complete the mission. And all the while, this great airplane retains all the in-flight maneuverability that was designed in to enable it to win in close air combat. Early F-15 fighters were single-seater, but this new dual-role version adds a back-seater called the Weapon System Officer. Maybe 2 heads are better than 1. Much larger aircraft dominate MAC, the USAF's Military Airlift Command. A huge organization with worldwide responsibilities, MAC's most numerous airlifter is the ubiquitous Lockheed C-130 Hercules, first flown in 1954 and still in production. This aircraft can put down almost anywhere and disgorge anything from an armored vehicle to 20 tons of rice for famine relief. A standard mission is paratrooping, and 64, or in some versions 92 fully armed troops can drop from the doors on both sides. Heavy items of cargo can be delivered by various methods, one of which is LAPES, the Low Altitude Parachute Extraction System. This calls for accurate flying despite the massive shift in center of gravity as the load slides to the rear and then leaves the aircraft. More covert operations can be conducted from the C-130, such as the insertion of Special Forces or the Navy's SEALs. C-130s are built by Lockheed, Georgia, and the same company also produced the colossal C-5 Galaxy. As normal, the rear fuselage opens to take on board or airdrop heavy loads. However, the nose opens as well. Hydraulic rams slowly position the loading ramp 19 feet wide, and outsized cargoes could then be loaded. A cargo of UH-60 Black Hawk helicopters present no problems. The mind boggles at the statistics of these giants, which can carry 160 tons of fuel and haul 130 tons of whatever the battlefield commander happens to need. Not only can they carry virtually anything, but, thanks to their 28 wheels, their 420-ton weight can be broadly distributed, and so they can also go almost anywhere. Originally painted white, the Galaxies are now camouflaged, and this makes them loom even larger. Almost 250 feet long, these monsters are max outsized freighters. Apart from the E-4, which is based on the jumbo jet, the Galaxy is the only aircraft in the U.S. inventory which dwarfs the KC-10 tanker. Early in-flight refueling tests proved the viability of rapid reinforcement by air over a long distance. Even with the maximum payload, a Galaxy can fly over 3,400 miles without needing to take on fuel in flight. Today, both types of aircraft are painted in the mix of dark gray and green shades known as Euro 1 or European 1 camouflage. Fort Campbell Army Airfield in Kentucky is frequently host to the giant Galaxies, where they land to take on board equipment for the 101st Airborne Division during its frequent deployments abroad on exercise. The United States Army's helicopter assets have often been described as the world's third biggest air force. Indeed, one particular type of helicopter, the Bell UH-1, has been built in larger numbers than any other military aircraft since World War II. Officially, it is named the Iroquois, but to American fighting men everywhere, it is the Huey, an odd name derived from its original designation of HU-1. First flown in 1956, it is still serving in large numbers as the standard tactical airlifter. Hueys can carry squads of up to 14 troops, and in the resupply role can lift up to 2,000 pounds of cargo. Though different versions of these machines serve all branches of the U.S. Armed Forces, by far the greatest number wear the olive drab color of the Army, and most of them will spend their operational life perilously close to enemy land forces. They survive by flying nap of the earth, often literally brushing through the grass and treetops wherever they are within range of hostile missiles or artillery. They never stay in one place for long, and their pilots have plenty to do, having to navigate accurately, keep an eye open for enemy fighters, and perhaps the worst hazard of all, avoid wire strikes. If that was not enough, they also have to make sure that they are not overrun on the ground by fast-moving mechanized units of the enemy. Hueys are made by Bell Helicopter Textron, and this Fort Worth, Texas company also made large numbers of the smaller OH-58 Kiowa. This neat machine is again used by the Army, Air Force, Navy, and Marines, but the chief customer was again the Army. The Army uses the OH-58 as its chief battlefield scout platform. Though it can take 5 or even 6 passengers, the Kiowa usually has just 2 on board, and one may be a colonel or even a general, eager to see exactly what is going on the battlefield. This again means nap of the earth flying, and Army Kiowas are fitted with cable cutters. Some are being upgraded with sensors able to see at night or in bad weather. Helicopters do much more than fly trucking and scouting missions. These tough brutes could take on an armored division. They are the Cobras, or Snakes, officially the AH-1G Huey Cobra, and yet another Bell product. Though derived from the original UH-1 Huey, they have a new, slim fuselage, with a fighter-like cockpit for the pilot and gunner, with the latter sitting in front and at a lower level to give both men an almost perfect all-round view. Cobras come in different versions, with either 1 or 2 engines, but most are able to fire up to 8 of the deadly TOW missiles, which can pierce through the toughest armor of a main battle tank. Under the nose is a power-driven turret with a 20 or 30 millimeter cannon, and each Cobra can also carry up to 76 air-to-ground rockets. When enemy armor appears, they cautiously unmask for a few seconds, just long enough to fire a TOW missile and guide it to its target. At a range of 3,000 meters, the Cobra, seen head-on, is reckoned to be almost invisible. After firing each missile, the Cobra dips behind natural cover and moves to a different location. The Army's new standard assault helicopter is the Sikorsky UH-60A Blackhawk. Powered by 2 1,500 horsepower General Electric engines, the Blackhawk can carry a crew of 3 and up to 14 troops or 6 litter casualties. Slung loads of up to 8,000 pounds can be hauled on this superb machine. Biggest and most powerful of the Army's helicopters is the Boeing Vertol CH-47 Chinook. This machine has an unusual layout with tandem rotors, one at the nose and the other at the tail. These are driven by 2 3,750 horsepower Avco Lycoming engines. The latest version, the CH-47D, can lift off at a weight of 50,000 pounds and can carry a payload greater than its own empty weight. In the casualty evacuation role, the standard load is 24 NATO litters plus medical attendants. In practice, by using external hooks, the slung load can go as high as 26,000 pounds. Once in Vietnam, a single Chinook brought to safety 147 refugees and their belongings. The Chinook can also transport such vital supplies as rations and fuel in flexible fuel bladders. And for tactical versatility, batteries of artillery and their ammunition can be moved about the battlefield. Another of the world's most powerful air forces belongs to the United States Navy. The main striking power of that Navy is vested in 14 giant carrier battle groups, which can deploy air power anywhere in the world. Each battle group is based on a colossal aircraft carrier, with a displacement of up to 90,000 tons and with about 6,000 people aboard. They are giant air bases packed with everything needed to sustain almost every kind of air operation and yet able to move up to 500 miles in a day. At over $30 million each, the Grumman F-14 Tomcat is one of the world's most expensive fighters, yet it offers unique capabilities. No other aircraft can pick out 6 hostile aircraft and shoot them all down virtually simultaneously from a distance of over 100 miles. Fitted with pivoted swing wings, the F-14 has a crew of 2 and carries a 20mm gun and 3 different kinds of air-to-air missile. Its task is to defend the fleet against any attack from the air. The newest Navy and Marine Corps fixed-wing combat aircraft is the McDonnell Douglas F.A. The single-seat Hornet was designed to replace the F-4 in the fighter and the A-7 in the attack role, and can operate by day or night. The Navy's counterpart of the AWACS is the Grumman E-2C Hawkeye. It carries 2 pilots and 3 operations specialists, plus a powerful radar able to detect anything of significance within 3 million cubic miles of sky. The area covered by a carrier battle group is vast. To establish reference points, if one could move the group ashore in Washington, D.C. on America's east coast, its escorting frigates, guided missile cruisers, and supply train would cover an area that reached from central Pennsylvania to southernmost Virginia and West Virginia. It would be hard to locate individual ships and difficult to target the group. F-14s, F.A.-18s, and E-2s, providing defense of the group, would be flying and under the carrier's control over Maine and South Carolina, Kentucky, and Michigan, out to over 300 nautical miles in any direction from the carrier. Attack submarines and anti-submarine aircraft, such as the S-3 Viking, would be searching as far ahead as Ohio, and its A-7s and F.A.-18s attack aircraft would be ready to strike as far away as Missouri or Illinois. If operating off southern Europe, a carrier battle group could support operations throughout the Mediterranean area. From the North Sea, a battle group could support operations in the areas of Finland, Western Russia, Poland, Czechoslovakia, East and West Germany, and virtually all of Western Europe. Many U.S. surface warships have their own radar and computer teams, and using the standard surface-to-air missile, they can individually engage hostile aircraft or anti-ship missiles. One problem facing the designers of naval aircraft is that they have to stand up to years of operation from a carrier deck. This means brutal arrested landings, each made at full power in case the tailhook fails to pick up an arrestor wire and the aircraft has to go around again. The Lockheed P-3C Orion does not have to suffer such treatment. Powered by 4 turboprop engines of the type fitted to the Hawkeye, it is a long-range ocean patrol and anti-submarine aircraft which operates from land bases. A rest area is provided for the typical complement of a P-3, which comprises a flight crew of 5 and 5 tactical operators who work in a comfortable, heated and pressurized area in the center fuselage. Orion can fly out a distance exceeding 1,500 miles and then spend 3 hours on patrol at low level before returning to base. This versatile aircraft, derived from a civil airliner, can carry up to 20,000 pounds of varied weapons. A folded Sikorsky SH-3 Sea King comes topside on the elevator onto a carrier's flight deck. After unfolding, it departs on an anti-submarine mission, carrying anti-submarine warfare sensors and 2 Mark 44 or Mark 46 torpedoes. The dunking sonar is used to locate the submerged submarine. Smoke markers pinpoint the position of the sub for attack. Similar helicopters can also fly search and rescue missions. To prolong their patrol, Sea Kings can undertake in-flight refueling. The helicopter simply formates with a friendly warship and takes on a fresh supply of fuel. The U.S. Navy's new generation of shipboard helicopter, and another Sikorsky product, is the SH-60B Seahawk. This is based on the Army's UH-60A Blackhawk, but has been totally redesigned to fly the anti-submarine warfare and anti-ship surveillance and targeting missions day or night and in any weather. Seahawk has 25 launchers for sonobuoys which detect submerged submarines. The Seahawk carries powerful radar and infrared sensors, as well as a magnetic anomaly detector which can be streamed behind and below the helicopter and then recovered. When it finds a submarine, the SH-60 can attack with 2 parachute-retarded torpedoes. Tests were carried out in which all 25 sonobuoys were ejected. Despite their size, Seahawks can be operated from the small fantail decks of destroyers and frigates. A special recovery assist, secure and traverse, RAST system, enables the big copter to be winched down safely with the ship pitching in waves of up to 13 feet high. The biggest and most powerful helicopter in the Navy, the MH-53E Sea Dragon, is a special mine countermeasures version of the helicopter originally developed as an assault transport for the Marine Corps. Powered by 3 engines, each of 4,380 horsepower, the Sea Dragon is an aerial minesweeper which operates out of reach of deadly sea mines. It has large internal fuel capacity, which is augmented by a large sponson tank on each side, adding a further 3,200 gallons. The Sea Dragon has the power to handle any kind of minesweeping gear. Not only must the big sweeping sledge be pulled through the sea, but it must also be fed with electrical power. Typical of such operations, the giant helicopter is working with a Mark 166 magnetic influence sledge. Among other tasks, the sledge can detonate magnetic mines. Each arduous towing mission can last up to 4 hours. Tough, disciplined, and ready, the Marine Corps are airlifted by various kinds of helicopter, of which the biggest and most powerful are the twin-engined Sikorsky CH-53 Stallions and the triple-engined CH-53E Super Stallions. Both these types can airlift 55 armed troops or bring in artillery, vehicles, ammunition, or engineering equipment needed during amphibious operations such as an assault on an enemy beach anywhere in the world. A CH-53 can airlift 90% of an infantry division's equipment and, depending on the version, can carry it from 500 to 1,000 miles. The giant rotor blades and tail fold for stowage aboard ship. CH-53s can be deployed aboard amphibious warfare ships to rapidly move Marine units to their objectives. The helicopters are equipped with flight refueling probes, from which they can take on fuel from the Marine Corps' KC-130 Hercules tankers, permitting them to self-deploy worldwide. Marine Corps CH-53s, carrying the new light armored vehicle and using in-flight refueling, can now insert armored assets to surprise the enemy and assist the Leathernecks in the early stages of an assault. Alone among the U.S. forces, the Marines use jet lift, short takeoff, and vertical landing warplanes that need no vulnerable airfields. Back in 1969, the Corps adopted the British Harrier as a versatile attack and fighter aircraft. Subsequently, British Aerospace and McDonnell Douglas collaborated to produce a new airplane, the greatly superior AV-8B Harrier II. A dream to fly, the Harrier II is new in almost every part and will eventually replace the AV-8A in Marine Corps service. It has a single-seat cockpit that owes much to the Hornet. Advanced electronic displays predominate. For ground attack, Harriers can use the snake-eye retarded bomb. If necessary, the AV-8 can take off vertically, for example from a small forest clearing. But once in the air, it flies and attacks at jet speeds. External loads of weapons can weigh up to 7,000 pounds for vertical takeoff or 17,000 pounds for a long rolling takeoff. Rolling takeoffs are also made from the flight deck of amphibious warfare ships. For shipboard landings, no arrestor gear is needed. During the Falklands War, the British proved that jet lift aircraft, fitted with the unique Pegasus engine and its swiveling nozzles, can fly combat missions when all other warplanes are grounded by bad weather. During the same conflict, it was also found that Harriers, armed with the Sidewinder air-to-air missile and using the vectored thrust of the Pegasus engines, or VIFing, during air-to-air combat gave the type a huge tactical advantage. The Harrier II introduces a new rapid-fire gun of 25 millimeters caliber. It is also capable of carrying a very wide variety of weapons and stores. Though the Harrier II is a really impressive machine, plans are already afoot to produce a supersonic version of this remarkable aircraft. Though quantitatively overshadowed by the Soviet Union, the diversity and above all quality of the different aircraft from her four services makes America the greatest single air power the world has seen.